Osaka's dream, and it's she put them on her head and she started flying away too.
There's also the time when she takes them off and it breaks Gio.
Yeah.
There's always that.
Oh yeah, she was like.
It's just always funny. One thing this show does very well is the background humor. Like you'll have like something, the main like whatever's going on, but then there's like some there's a point where Chio and Osaka are talking, and then you just all of a sudden see Miss Sagaki in the background with the cat that hates her, like stuck to her hand, flailing around in the background, and it's always like okay.
Yeah, there really was a lot of funny elements to the show. It definitely.
It flows very quick too, like.
Yeah.
Because every episode is basically just kind of like it's another day in school. What stupid thing's gonna happen today?
Yeah. Or like I love how like it.
Hey guys, I'm Bill, also known as the Barbecue Games on Instagram.
And I'm Alex, his sister, who brings only chaos.
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast, a mostly video game centered podcast.
But half the time, we just talk about anime.
And that collecting thing, well, that's mostly just an implication at best.
So come along and enjoy us on this adventure
as we discuss the games that shaped us. So, how you been?
I've been good. I forget what happened this week.
It's been 2 weeks because we didn't record last week.
It's been 2 weeks?
Yeah, because we didn't record last week because of stuff we'll talk about at a later date.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's been a bit. Mostly working, getting through this summer. We're getting into summer now.
Yeah, it's getting hot. Getting sweaty, but you have like your AC'd in where you're at work, which is nice.
It's still hot though.
It's partially for me. It is getting warmer, but I feel like, in all honesty, summer's probably gonna be over in like a month. So it really
the speed
will.
It's going, probably.
The speed is going, yeah. And I feel like it's only getting faster. Work's been.
I mean, we're already into July. I mean, granted, when this episode comes out, summer probably already will be over, but...
Yeah, no, that's actually funny. It's July right now. It's 4th of July weekend, so we get a long weekend, but...
Woo! But yeah, other than that, it's been fun. I mean, last week we had fun at a deli. That was
we found
great.
this deli that's like up the street. Well, I've been to it before. And we found it, and it's like the food is so good.
But the layout of the restaurant, because it's weird. It's like half deli, half restaurant.
Yeah.
And we've never actually eaten at the restaurant itself. We usually just go to the
deli.
We do an order out. But the way it's laid out, it's kind of like there's no designated like waiting area, so everyone just kind of piles in there.
Kind of in like the waiting area is by the takeout area too.
Yeah.
So you're just like.
So it's like if it gets really slammed, all of a sudden there'll be like tons of people piled up. So you'll be trying to not be in the way, and all of a sudden you'll see people forming lines behind you, and you're like, we're not in the line.
We're not in line.
There's no line.
It's a mob.
It was really. Thank God the food was good.
And guess what I have?
And she's got her cat because she loves her cat.
She jumped up, and now I have her.
She looks annoyed.
I mean, she's not really fighting to get away or anything.
Yeah.
You know, Bill's been spending a lot of time with Tillard. She wakes him up sometimes, right? She wakes me up all the time. It was funny. Our mom was here yesterday, and a while back, I think I told the story about how she drooled in my eye, and she drooled on. Hey, no scratching couch. She drooled on my mom's face too. She's so freaking weird.
She's a cat.
Yep, she's my baby.
Yeah, but other than that,
Did they hear that?
What do you... That's a cat.
She's angry.
So what are you drinking?
Right now, I don't know why, but recently, I have a Sprite addiction. I can't help drinking it. So I have a Sprite with 0 sugar, one of those like mini cans, where it's not like a full-on can, but it's a mini can, because I have a problem. Help.
And I'm drinking a sparkling ice fruit punch, because...
Fruit punch!
Yeah. That just because.
I just punched him. Assault. Shit.
But anyways.
Punch!
So, the episode today's.
Punch Buggy White, no Punch Buggy. That was for Herbie yesterday.
Oh yeah, we saw the love bug drive by yesterday. That was funny.
Yeah, and I just kept screaming, Lindsay! Lindsay!
That movie sucked.
It was great. It was a classic. Freaking love Herbie fully loaded. It's the best one out of them. Fight me.
It's the only one you've seen.
No, I've seen the other ones. We watched them as kids.
Sure we did.
Yeah, we did.
Anyways,
we have a topic for today. What is it again?
so we're returning to Alex's baby anime swap.
Oh shit, we're doing that one
Yeah.
first. Oh, whoops. I thought we were doing a different one first.
It's so much her baby, she doesn't even remember what we're doing.
Yeah, what should we? Yeah, no, I know.
Oh, Jesus.
It's like gonna be a day. Anyways, Anime Swap.
Yeah, so I guess as with the previous episodes, the whole idea behind Anime Swap is we both will suggest a show, and we will. So in the past, we've watched either like movies, or we've done like maybe
a
like
couple episodes,
5 or 6 episodes of a series, and then we've gone from there. For this one, though, we decided to change it up a bit. We did full series or season, anyways, for how it was. So our swap this time is going to be, I offered, my suggestion to watch was Azumanga Daioh, the entire series. And Alex's suggestion was
The Rising of the Shield Hero.
Season 1. Because
Season 1.
the fun part about Anime Swap is they don't have to be the same show.
No.
Like a similar
They can
style.
be completely different.
They can be completely unrelated. They don't even have to be close in tone.
Yeah. Like Comey and Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, that one was pretty interesting.
I don't think any of ours have really been close in tone at all.
I don't know.
One Piece and Inuyasha is not.
No,
close
I'm not talking
at
about
all.
that one. I'm talking about Naruto and My Hero. They were similar.
I guess that was the most similar. That's the only one though.
Yeah.
How many of these have we done?
This is number 5.
5?
Yep.
What are the other ones we did?
One Piece and Inuyasha.
Yes.
Dragon Ball and Mob
Oh,
Psycho.
that's the one I was thinking. Dragon Ball. Okay.
Yep. But anyways, so this one we decided to do full. So we did all of Azumanga Daioh and the first season of Rising of the Shield Hero. So they're around 20. So Azumanga Daioh was 26 episodes. Rising of the Shield Hero was
I think it was 25.
25 or something.
The same.
Yeah, so a similar amount of episodes, but we did the full series this time. So rather than giving, I guess, a full summary, I guess we'll explain kind of the show's basic premise and some of the major things. So I guess the first thing we watched was Azumanga Daioh.
Yes.
And
American. Yeah.
So Azumanga Daioh is a fascinating show because it's not an easy show to explain.
It's Seinfeld.
It's
but if it was anime.
In a kind of a way, it's basically Seinfeld the anime, where it's literally an anime about nothing.
There's really no flowing plot.
No.
Besides
so the
that
show,
they're in high school and that they graduate eventually.
So the show revolves around 6 high school girls in like a random Japanese high school.
Yep.
And basically the wacky escapades they get into on a daily basis.
Yeah.
With their 2 teachers, because there's only 2 teachers that matter in the school.
3.
Oh yeah, 3. The two female teachers and then the 3rd male teacher. That's like the only prominent male in the show.
Yep.
Unless you count the father cat, but and basically the wacky escapades that happen every day. And each character has like their own distinct kind of personality. Like you got the hyper psycho one. You got the token like child that's been moved up because she's smarter than everyone else.
With pigtails.
Yeah. You got the.
Are they connected to her head? Who knows?
It depends on the episode.
Yep.
The one that's kind of just average and doesn't really give a shit about anything around. The super athletic one. The spacey one.
Yep. And
then the awkward tall one.
Yes. Awkward, tall, pretty one.
Yes. And each one has their own distinct character tics. So they all kind of go through their own weird developments throughout the show. Like the most prominent 2 are probably Chio, the younger one,
Chio!
Who's kind of like the main character if there was a main character, but she also really there is no main character.
Yeah.
And then there's Miss Sagaki, who is the tall, awkward, quiet one,
Yep.
Because her whole entire
Who loves
plot,
cats.
yeah, her whole plot line is she loves cats.
And cats still love her.
Yeah, and yeah, most of the cats do not love her except for the one that does.
At the very end.
And it's funny because every episode kind of starts with her having a different day in school, and it's some sort of thing going on. Like there might be like an athletic event, or like the school culture festival, or the ongoing summer school trips to Chio's beach house with
Yep.
with Miss Yukari can't drive.
Yep. And it traumatized poor Chio.
Yeah.
And Osaka. But you don't feel as bad for
Well,
Osaka because she's Osaka.
Osaka. So her name isn't actually Osaka. I don't even remember what her name is.
I don't remember.
She-
Because they only say it like twice in
Yeah.
the show. Isn't it at the graduation they say her name and they say Osaka?
No, that's during the they're announcing the class, who's going to be in their classes for next year.
Yep.
And she couldn't find her name on the list because the teachers just wrote Osaka. But her whole gimmick is she's from Osaka,
And they gave her like this Southern Belle accent, like
yeah.
for the dub.
I will say the ADV dub is very well done,
Mm.
especially for like an early 2000s like dub,
Yeah, no, for the time it had good voice acting.
especially for a show that, in all honesty, really probably was a challenge to dub,
Yeah.
just because of its super outlandish like concept.
And they probably had no idea how it was going to perform. You know?
Well, because the show's a pure comedy, and it like a lot of it's based around just like cultural references and jokes. Like the classic, there's an American among us, which is one giant boob joke.
Yep. There's an American among us.
But there's also points in this show where it gets really fucking weird.
Oh yeah, like the dream episode.
Yeah, the episode when they're all going through like different dreams, and we get to go see Chio's family with her father, the father cat.
Father cat.
Who's voiced by
Is he her father, or
we-
is he not her father?
We don't know. We'll never know.
And we'll never know. And you know, I'm okay with not knowing as long as he doesn't appear in my life again.
Yeah.
Did not. Father cat gives me the creeps for some reason.
He's also voiced by Beerus, which is funny.
Oh yeah. Cats.
And then there's the teacher, the creepy teacher, because there is male characters, but they're all
The worst.
they're irrelevant. They don't have anything to do with the plot. But there's the male teacher who comes off as a massive creep.
Yeah.
Because he's always creeping on the girls during like the swimming and everything else. But it's funny because then like whenever you don't see him as a when you see him outside of work, he's like out in the park cleaning up trash, or he's like donating to charity.
Yeah, or he has like a pretty wife and family.
His wife and child, who are completely oblivious to the fact that he's a weirdo.
Yeah.
But it's just a weird contrast.
Yeah.
And then like you get like these weird like spotlight episodes where like each character has like a weird like gimmick where like there's something better, like the athletic episodes where it's like it's shown that Miss Sagaki's like the best runner in the school, but she doesn't try.
Yeah.
She just is.
Because she just wants to be friends with cats.
or when they did the three-legged race and they made Chio and Osaka partners.
Yep.
And they immediately face
Fell.
plant into the ground.
Oh, and then
Repeatedly.
the next time they did Miss Sagaki did it with the girl who's like in love, Yandere.
Oh yeah,
in love
the one
with
that's
her.
the one that's just straight up a lesbian.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hide it at all. Like
Well,
there's straight up.
It's funny because like one of the things you were like, I didn't notice that before. It's like
Yeah, no, because when I watched the show, I was a child, so I didn't understand the whole rainbow flying through the air.
like rainbow.
And I
like-
mean, nothing against it. Like, do what you want to do. I just think it's funny how like on the nose it was.
Yeah.
Like it was like, whoa,
Well,
okay.
it's funny too because at the time I think probably a lot of people didn't make that connection, but when you
Well,
go and watch it back now,
No, and also you gotta realize Japan's culturally very different from the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
So in Japan, that would be a very kind of like outlandish, stark, like
controversial.
nowadays it's very standard because it's part of life now, and it's a very like common thing.
Yeah.
Back then though, it was very different.
Oh yeah.
So it was like as a kid, I didn't get it. I was just kind of like, why does like rainbows explode in the air every time
Yeah.
this character's on screen? I
Now
don't get it. And then
now
you grow
you
up and you
get
go,
it.
oh.
Oh.
It's like, I guess that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not hiding it at all.
Yeah. It is funny though. The character is so in love. With
Yeah.
her. And she's like part of the group, but not part of the group.
She's part of the group for the first like couple episodes, and then they bring in the other girl,
The
and they
voice
just
girl.
they just move her out of the plot
Yeah, and one thing that's funny about the show is like you don't see a single character with outlandish hair color. Like they're all
like they're all pretty standard. Like the most outlandish is probably Chio, and even then she's just like a very light brunette.
Yeah, or red, or light ginger of sorts.
Also,
I love that her pigtails are detachable in some scenes and not in others. Oh, wasn't that Osaka's dream? And it's like she put them on her head and she started flying away too.
There's also the time when she takes them off and it breaks Chio.
Yeah.
There's always that.
Oh yeah, she was like, dead.
It's just always funny. One thing this show does very well is the background humor. Like you'll have like the main like whatever's going on, but then there's like there's a point where Chio and Osaka are talking, and then you just all of a sudden see Miss Sagaki in the background with the cat that hates her like stuck to her hand flailing around in the background, and it's always like, okay.
Yeah. There really was a lot of funny elements to the show. It definitely
it flows very quick too, like
yeah,
because every episode is basically just kind of like it's another day in school. What stupid thing's gonna happen today?
Yeah, or like I love how like it will reset. Like it basically just resets every day, like wherever they left off the last time. It's just like, all right, clean slate. This is what we're on now.
Or another great one is so there's the two teachers. There's Miss Yukari and then Miss what's the other teacher's name?
And you're asking the wrong
I forget.
person.
But the other teacher's the more sensible of the two.
Yep.
And there's a point where she gets drunk on one of the summer trips and tells the girls everything about.
Oh yeah.
About growing up.
And they're all just like. Oh,
and then the next morning she pops out and she's like, "Oh hi, Miss Sagaki," and she immediately just runs away.
Yeah,
like,
she's like,
gone.
"Oh no, I'm out of here." Oh, poor Miss Sagaki.
Yeah,
So
the whole show is just, it's one of those ones that's like, it's like a classic. I actually picked up the manga recently. I've been meaning to read that because the full omnibus came out.
Yeah, and didn't you say there was also some changes they made to the book?
Yeah, they edited a few things. Like, I know the male teacher was removed from, not the manga, but there was like additional, like, added, like, bonus things that were written later on that he was just kind of omitted from.
Yeah.
Because he's
not the most
he hasn't aged.
friendly. Yeah, unfortunately it does. Yeah, because when did this manga come out?
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Late 90s, yeah. And as we know, things are a lot different now.
Granted, it's also, you got to keep in mind Japan versus America. Very different
There's
culturally.
always like different. I mean, but I think the show, I mean, even for the time it came out, like, you know, adding in those like jokes about the character who's in love with Miss Sagaki, like, you know, not every show would go for that. You know,
no,
I feel
and
like
make it so blatant on the head.
Yeah, I feel like a lot. So it is pretty progressive. I mean, for the time, and especially in Japan.
It's also
not
a fan servicey show, which is nice.
Yeah, it is like it's definitely like kind of refreshing to see something that's just, especially where it's centered around like high school girls in an anime. Like a lot of the times, there's usually fan service, so it is kind of nice that. It's
like, I'm honestly thinking the most fan servicey moment is maybe when they're at the pool.
Yeah, or like the beach.
Or the beach. Yeah, I guess the beach is.
Some of the swimsuits there.
But even really, then, it's not really fan servicey at all.
No.
It's more just silly.
Yeah, because I mean, we've been watching another show now, and like, I never really noticed the fan service. Like, I don't know, I just guess I didn't really notice, but Bill's been pointing it out, and I'm like, okay, I guess there is a lot of fan service,
well, see,
but I guess I'm just numb to it now.
I watch a lot of, like, rom-coms and, like, romance shows, and it's a lot more apparent in those, so I kind of notice when it pops out in something that's not inherently like, you wouldn't, like, an action show or something.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, it pops out and you're like, huh. Like, why is this here? Yeah. But, 26 episodes, super easy. It's on High Dive now, which is great, too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The whole show's...
High Dive is so freaking frustrating, though. I got my grudges against
Oh, because
High Dive.
It's missing random seasons from shows?
Yeah, it's just freaking annoying. It's like, if you're going to put Haikyuu Season 3 on there, why don't you just throw the freaking rest of them? Like,
because there's probably a licensing issue or something. I don't...
Sorry, I just had to let my rage out. My rage against the machine. That's a band, right?
Yes. Very... completely unrelated to the two things we watched.
Nope.
It's so funny too. It's funny too though rewatching this show now and how like you can very much tell it was made in the 90s in terms of like the style of like the like all the technology in
yeah.
the show and like all the stuff around them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can definitely see that in the show. It's definitely aged, it's definitely older. And I mean the animation style itself is very for the time. It works for the time,
Yeah.
you know.
It still looks good.
Oh yeah, no, it still looks good.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the first real like off the wall kind of like pure comedy like series I ever saw, which I think is part of how I started getting into more non-action focused shows over the years.
There are also a lot of like memes and like gifs stemmed from the show too.
Yeah, because I remember the Sonic shorts like referenced Azumanga Daioh multiple times. Yes. There's so many gifs from the show too that are like hilarious like to remember.
Yeah.
Like it's super goofy. Like the opening scene from the show is literally like one of the teachers is late for school and her bike breaks down. So one of the students stops by to help, and like he's like, "Hey, if I show up with the teacher, that means I won't be in trouble for being late." And as he's pondering this, Yukari steals his bike and goes to school.
Sounds about right.
Which is great because, yeah, and it's just funny.
No, it does it does make me laugh though. Like I've seen a lot of like gifs from the show. I've seen a lot of like I've heard a lot of references. Like there was a lot of things like in the show. I was like, oh, that's where that's from, or oh, that's where that's from.
It was pretty groundbreaking for the time, and it kind of changed like what could be dubbed. Because back in the day, a lot of shit just didn't get dubbed because it was deemed like just too much work. That's one of the great things about ADV. ADV would take the chance on shit back in the day. I mean, a lot of the times their work wasn't the best, but they would at least like go out of their way to try, which was nice. It's just so funny though, because this show would never like.
My favorite friendship dynamic.
Oh, Sagaki and
Chio.
Yeah, they were great.
They were my favorite friendship dynamic. They're just so cute.
Every character has their moments. Like, what's really good is it's kind of like Friends in a way, where all of them like you need all of them for it to work.
Yeah.
And they all have their own great like dynamics, but none of them are on their own would be able to carry the show.
Yeah.
Like. Because the Osaka show would get very old very fast.
Oh my god, you'd just be like, alright, shut up, Osaka. I mean,
Alex, remember, get it together. Get it together. Get it together.
I love that scene. That was like one of my favorite ones.
I love when she's in gym and she can't do like a sit, like a touch her toes, and she like needs Chio to push her forward.
Yeah.
But she's like stiff as a board, so she's not going anywhere.
Nope.
Also, another joke is the creepy teacher. Every time he sees Osaka, he just looks at her and then walks away because she's
flat.
Yeah, and he's not interested. Oh, it's so funny. There's so many goofy things about that show, and it's it's weird though because it's very hard to recommend to someone because it's very much a niche. It's incredibly niche. I will say that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones I would say give it a chance because the second you watch it, it'll just kind of like hook you because you're like, you need to know what's going to happen next. Psycho. Oh yeah, the scene where she goes to wake up the people on the third. So there's a scene on the third Beach House episode where Osaka's going to go wake people up, and she decides to do it with a fucking butcher's knife because that makes sense.
Yeah, because why not confuse them all? Yeah.
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 Also, I love this show had a lot of repetitive jokes too that are really funny.
Yeah, they never they were repetitive, but they never.
Well, what I mean by repetitive is like there'll be like a joke that it will do, and then there'll be a beat, and then it'll go and do the joke again, as part of the ongoing joke.
Yep.
Like the scene where they're waiting for it was during the summer and they're waiting for the car to arrive. Yep. So like they go through this whole routine, and then they were like, "Wait, no, actually something else," and then they go and do it again.
Yep.
But then something else comes up, and then they do it again. It's like, it's funny stuff like that that's like kind of off the cuff, and you just never see it coming. Yeah.
It's a good time.
I'd recommend watching it. I enjoy it. Like, it held up because I first saw it. It was one of the first animes I watched. Started when I really started getting into it. So this was back in like 2012, I want to say. And I remember 2012. I was not as apparent. I didn't notice a lot of things in anime at the time.
Yeah.
Now I know all the tropes, and I'm always like, oh, that's what that is. I get it now.
Yeah, I know the things now.
Yeah, definitely worth a watch though, and it's like I said, High Dive, not an expensive platform to watch on, and it's all on there.
Yeah.
Or you can track down the box set because I don't think the box set's that expensive.
Yeah. But remember, if you want to watch Haikyuu, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
High Dive, add the other seasons, please. Thanks. They're not listening. They're not listening to us.
No,
we have no friends.
They're too busy acquiring rights to stuff they're not going to dub.
Yep.
For the next 12 years. They'll dub it eventually, just 12 years from now.
Is that accurate?
Sure. But anyways, guys, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
I don't want to.
Well, too bad.
Screw you.
And we'll see you in a minute.
No.
And we're back.
You guys didn't see that, but I just threw a cat over at Bill's head. We've been having this war ever since living with each other. We just throw shit at each other. Or I just do stupid things, like tuck his anime figures into bed.
She's got weird interests, people.
Oh shit, I missed. Yeah, but we just keep throwing shit at each other. But anyways. So
now on to your choice for anime swap this time.
Yes. So my choice was Rising of the Shield Hero. Cool, interesting about it was that it was originally a web novel on like just.
I think it was a light novel first, and then a web novel.
No, it was originally published as a web novel.
Oh,
it was on a user-generated novel site. So
gotcha.
It was basically, I don't know, no, I don't think like fanfiction.net, but basically some sort of like more, I think it was a Japanese site.
Well, it'd be more like Fiction Press, where it's actual original stuff.
Yeah, something like that. And then the series was eventually was expanded with like storyline, with like illustrations later on after it was picked up by Media Factory. And then eventually it was also a manga was created also by Media Factory. And then after that, the anime was created.
Although I believe the anime is based directly off of the original source material.
Possibly. I don't see it here, but basically, it's kind of cool. Like a lot of animes now are being based off like these light novels that are generated by like the everyday person, not necessarily like these big people. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see like that growth of like they put it on just a random publishing site and they got picked up by this and they got picked up by this and now it's a full-on anime. So it's pretty neat to see. I just wanted to point that out. But basically, the whole kind of plot centers around. Well, it kind of starts out with the main character who's named Naofumi Iwatani, and he's basically just a random nice guy in Japan. He was living a good life, he, like, they kind of introduced him as this really nice guy.
Who was good at games.
Who was good at games, but he had, well, actually, no, I don't really think, because he was the only one who didn't know anything about the game.
Well, he didn't play that game, but it was implied he was good at games.
He was good at games, he liked to read, and he was just a good guy. Like, I believe it even started out like his brother was like going down the wrong path and he ended up staying home in order to help his family like get him back on the right track, and it did. So like he's clearly like a very responsible and like level-headed character with good intentions. Like obviously like to sacrifice your choices to come back and help your brother out, like, that kind of implies that you're a pretty nice guy.
Yes.
So, one day he actually picks up a book, and the book is called The Stories of the Four Cardinal Heroes. And then from there, he's pulled into the world of the Four Cardinal Heroes. I don't know if there's any certain name for the world. I think it's just the world, basically.
It's essentially an MMO.
Yeah, it's essentially an MMO. He's pulled into the world as one of the Four Cardinal Heroes, along with 3 other people, which are the Spear Hero, the Sword Hero, the Bow Hero, and himself, the Shield Hero. Immediately as he's going in, he's kind of realizing something's a little fishy, because they're greeted by the king and like a bunch of people from the church of the world, and the king is like, "Oh, good spear, sword, and bow hero. It's so nice to see you." And then the shield hero, he's like, "Oh yeah, you too." So clearly, like, there's something off right
also,
now.
all the others come in with additional people with them, and he's by himself.
Yeah, well, kind of. So not exactly at that point yet. So the king ends up taking them to the I think it's like the throne room, and they're talking, blah blah blah, and he basically tells them like they were summoned here because they need to fight the waves of catastrophe, which are kind of like the main reason why they're summoned to this world. It's like this main enemy, and it's kind of like in a game where you have like waves of fighting, like kind of like fighting zones. You have waves of enemy come, and they have to defeat the waves and save the kingdom. You don't really understand this yet, but what's happened is they're actually not all supposed to be summoned together by one kingdom. They're each supposed to be summoned by one of the 4 kingdoms of this world. And they didn't do that. So, immediately there's a lot of red flags with this situation. But eventually they end up going to rest for the night, and they're going to talk to the king the next day. And they're basically all chatting. All the 4 heroes are chatting, and they soon find out that they're not even from the same world of Japan. They're all from different universes of Japan. Because they start chatting about... First, they start talking about the game, and Naofumi's like, "I didn't play the game, I just read a book." And the other 2 are like, "What? You idiot!" And the other 3 are making fun of them. And one thing that you'll notice is that the other heroes besides Naofumi are very unlikable.
Yeah. And even then, at this point, they haven't even got to being that unlikable.
Yeah, at this point, they're not even that bad. But
they're
even in
annoying.
the beginning, they're just like, you don't really love these characters, besides like the main character. But you're already like, ugh, these characters kind of suck. But there's a reason they suck, because they're sucky. And basically, they're talking. They kind of realize that they're all from different universes of Japan, where they realize that they've all had different prime ministers and different things about the world. So that's kind of a big plot point too, is that none of their knowledge base is really the same. They're all from Japan, but they're all not from the same Japan. So the next day they end up going to the throne hall, and the king is like, "Alright, these noble heroes are going to help you, adventurers. Adventurers are going to all join you." And they start going out. The heroes don't get to pick, the adventurers pick, and it soon ends with everyone having a party except for Naofumi, this shield hero, which is like, oh, shitty. And he ends up going like, "Well, this isn't fair. Come on, guys, someone help me out." And no one really makes a move until this one girl named Mine does. And she makes a move, and she goes to join his party. Well, he thinks this is a blessing, but it really was a curse in disguise.
Yeah, because from the moment you first see her, this one's fucked.
Yeah, as soon as she's on the screen, you're kind of like, there's something fishy about this. So it ends up going on, and basically, like, she ends up teaching him the basic mechanics of the game, because that's kind of one of the reasons why none of the adventurers, well, minus that he's a shield hero, but also one of the reasons why none of the adventurers want to join him is because he has no knowledge of the game, because he never played it, unlike the other ones. So he's going around, he's basically trying to get experience, and
figuring out the mechanics.
Yeah, and one thing that he immediately finds out is that as a shield hero, the only weapon they can touch is their legendary hero weapon. So he can only use shields. So he picks up a sword, it like will hurt him, or like he just can't use it.
Yeah.
So that's like kind of one of the major downfalls. So he needs to rely on party members to help him fight, because he can do all the protecting, but he can do all the defense, but no one else. He can't use a sword, so he needs someone to fight. So he ends up going along, and he's thinking that Mine is like this really great person, really awesome to helping them, and they end up having like dinner, and she keeps trying to make him drink wine, and he's like, nope, I don't drink, I'm not a fan of alcohol. It actually comes up later that he, like, alcohol doesn't really affect him, you know, either.
Because Shield Hero.
Because Shield Hero has natural stronger defenses, so that's happening, and she goes, all right, and he goes to bed. He wakes up the next morning, all of his money is gone, all of his equipment is gone, and Mine is gone. And he's like, what the heck? What happened? Where's all our stuff? So she runs to chase after her and find her, and then gets taken to the Capitol because he's accused of assaulting Mine. And all this bad stuff.
And everyone just buys it because, surprise, Mine is the king's daughter.
Yeah, which is, you weren't expecting it. Well, I mean, I knew it was going to happen because I've already watched it, but you weren't expecting that. You knew something was up, but you weren't expecting that relation. So, bummer. So, it ends up being that he gets, like, accused of, like, assaulting her and, like, stuff that he didn't do because he went straight to bed last night, and it's all a lie, and he's basically outcasted. They can't kill him as the Shield Hero, but, like, they're not going to help him at all. So basically, he's in this world, he has no idea what's going on, and he's got to figure it out for himself. And everyone is a jerk for him. But that kind of makes him stronger at the same time.
Yeah.
So
he also goes from being a very nice, like, well-rounded person to just straight-up cynicism.
Yeah. He, like, doesn't care at this point. Like, at one point, a bunch of random adventurers are trying to join his party just to, like, take advantage of him, and he's like, alright, you can join my party, but I'm only going to pay you if you actually show me results. If you're just going to abandon me and let me die, I'm not going to pay you. You're not going to get anything from me. And they don't like that, and he ends up, like, scaring them off. But he's so cynical of the world, which kind of leads him to getting his first
first he meets the absolute bro of the series. The blacksmith.
Yeah, well, he met him before with Mine.
True, but he gives him a second. He's the only one who would still, like, trust him.
Yeah.
Because even the blacksmith didn't really,
Well, because what happens is, like, the blacksmith at first is like, I'm ashamed of you, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, I didn't do it, and, like, basically tells him, and the blacksmith's like, alright, something seems up about this. He really doesn't seem like he did it. And he trusts him, so he ends up making him some standardized...
Well, because even, like, when they were there with Mine, even he was questioning some of Mine's weird decisions.
Like, to get armor and stuff for her, and, like, level up her armor more for her. It seemed fishy, and it was fishy. But after that, he ends up running into this man with a really long nose. He had a long, pointy nose, right?
Yeah.
Pretty certain he did.
Monocle, glasses.
Monocle. He was your standard.
He looked like a sketch. You know.
He looked like a sketch. And now for me, he's like, what else is this going to do? It ends up following him. And it leads him to the slave market, because there's slaves in this show. But Naomi's a good guy, and he treats her okay. So he ends up, like, being shown a bunch of slaves that, like, he can't afford, and he ends up picking this girl who is sick. And they have this thing called demi-humans, where they're basically, like, people with, like, animal
They're just
features.
Humans with animal characteristics.
They're humans with, like, animal ears and tails, basically. And they're demi-humans. And for some reason, they think they're lower than humans, and they're treated badly.
Because, typical racism plots.
Yeah, racism. We're gonna fight it.
Yeah.
Woo. So that happens. Bad. Yeah, it is fairly bad.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's still happening. But it's good that they're always putting that message out there. But anyways, he ends up buying her, and ends up actually saving her because she was really ill. So he nursed her back to health and gained her trust, and she had to act as a sword because he doesn't have those fighting abilities. So
So it's also the way it works is he signs a pact, and she gets a slave crest put on her, which basically ties her to Naofumi's will, I guess you could say.
Well, she like can't lie to him, and she has to listen to his demands. And if she doesn't do them, it will like hurt, like give her shock basically, and make
it's
her
basically
do it.
it's basically a metaphorical shock collar.
Yeah, and but Naofumi is a good guy, and he only uses it
when it's to her. If she's what she's doing is going to be to her own detriment.
Yeah. So one of the big times he uses it is when they're fighting this like two-headed dog, and it reminds her of a monster that basically killed her parents during one of the waves, and that's kind of how she ended up where she ended up. So she ends up not being able to fight, but because Naofumi kind of pushes her to do it, she ends up doing that and like ends up kind of conquering her own past fears and stuff. And after that, they kind of bond closer, and then eventually she grows up out of nowhere. Because basically, demi-humans, as they level up, they
grow. So she goes from being a child to a full-grown adult.
Yep.
In the span of a scene.
Yes.
Although Naofumi still sees her as a child.
Yeah. And it takes a little bit for him to see her as a child. As an adult. And, one of the big things that happens is he ends up being like invited to the castle and has to go to this party, and then he gets challenged by the spear hero,
who's a giant fucking douche.
Oh, everyone hates the spear hero. If you like the spear hero, why?
So out of the heroes, they're all pretty unlikable. The sword hero is the least unlikable, but he's still kind of an idiot.
Yeah, they're not the greatest, but like. The
spear hero just is also the one that's aligned with mine. Or Malty, as her actual name is.
Yeah, it's her princess. It's her real name. Mine is her traveler's name. He ends up challenging her to a fight, and of course, Mine interferes and cheats and uses a spell
as he's winning.
After like Naofumi's basically gonna win, and then they all were like, "Ooh, he lost," blah, 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 and they end up removing the slave.
So they do it because they claim that he's taking advantage of her and against her will, even though they don't ever ask her once, and they forcibly remove the thing from her, which is basically worse than what they were saying. But she ends up like staying with him because she's the only person who cares.
But this scene also starts unlocking a power called the Rage Shield. Which, at the moment, he doesn't use it at the moment, but it's like one of the first steps into him unlocking this power. Which is actually detrimental to him, but he doesn't really understand that at the time. So the next party member they get is named Philo, and she starts off
But that's also the scene where Naofumi starts seeing Raphtalia as a
yes, after
adult.
that, he sees Raphtalia as an adult and doesn't see her as a kid anymore.
And then they proceed to go back to the sketchy salesman.
Yep.
Who Raphtalia wants nothing to do with, by the way, to reapply the slave crest or whatever.
Yeah, and he's like so impressed with Naofumi's ability that like he turned like Raphtalia around from like this sick little girl to this great fighter. That he's like, oh, you should buy this too, and he buys like a monster egg. And then the egg, you could either get a dragon or a
giant chicken.
A giant chicken. Philolio or a Philolio, which is basically like a chocobo from Final Fantasy, and they're basically that. And because he is raising her as like a hero, is raising her, she ends up being not only a regular Philolio, but like a Philolio queen.
Mm-hmm.
Which basically means she can take on like a human form and also just becomes giant. She's so fluffy.
But there's like a great scene where they're fucking spear douche and
he goes to a town that he saved during one of the waves.
Because that's another plot. While the waves are going on, the heroes are being freaking idiots, going for the glory and ignoring all the small people.
Yeah, ignoring all the people who actually need help. So while the other heroes are just being dumb, he's actually out there saving a village and like saving people and making sure they're alive.
Along with the most badass grandma ever.
Yeah, no, that's not until the next wave.
Oh, I thought he rescued her first. Oh, whatever.
Well, because Philo was.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
So basically, that happens, and he ends up going back to that town, and the people are really nice for him. But what kind of happens is the spear guy comes down with mine, and she's like, "As decree of royal princess bitch, I am here to say that I now run this town with the spear hero, and we're charging you so much taxes to leave." It's like. it was like a fee of like 50,000 like currency.
Also, though, another thing though you got to point out too is this is also the point though where people are starting to see somewhat through Mind's little ruse, because there's the point where they're getting their rewards for something, and he won't pay the shield hero because he's claiming that they owe him money for the removed slave thing that he didn't want.
Yeah.
But then the sword and the bow hero comment that, you cheated, so you should still pay him.
Yeah. So
it's clear that they're starting to not buy what's going on here.
They're still jerks, but they're also like, all right, this is getting a little ridiculous, guys. So basically that happens. Now he has Philo, who's the Philolio queen, and they end up, after that,
there's the Great Race.
Yeah, they have a race before she becomes like the big bird. She's like a little bird, and he races against the dragon, and of course,
the Spirit Hero's dragon, and
mine is cheating the whole time with like props and like with spells and stuff to try and beat them. But of course, Philo still wins, and after she wins, she evolves into Big Bird,
and then kicks the Spear Hero in the nuts, which becomes an ongoing thing. But this is also the first appearance of the Secret Service, in a sense.
Yeah.
Who call Mine out on her obvious bullshit cheating.
Yeah. And basically, because after the race, she's like, no, you don't win, blah, 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 I still win, this is our town. And basically, like, the queen's,
well, we don't know servants. It's the queen yet, but it's
the Secret Service basically comes and is just like,
and basically tells her, you're a bit out of line here, you should probably knock it the fuck up.
Yeah, and she ends up walking away from it. But then after that, they end up, like, just traveling because they realize, well, I'm not going to get any help in the capital, so I might as well go out and do things. And as they're traveling, they kind of get dubbed the something of the heavenly fowl.
Yeah, because of the giant chicken.
Because one thing that now for me is really talented at, especially because he's the shield hero and he's, like, defense and, like, health stats, is... Fuck you. He threw the cat toy at me. He's great at making medicine, so he ends up going around and like healing the sick, which is the old lady who ends up fighting in the waves. He ends up healing the sick, and one of the things he ends up doing is he ends up fixing all of the other heroes' mistakes because they suck.
Well, because at one point after Philo transforms for the first time, they have to find proper clothes for her, but they need this special thread that can only be created with like a crystal. So they have to go on a quest to get the crystal stone thing. Yep.
Because when she turns into Big Bird, her clothes don't magically transform with her. So she needs to get special magic clothes. So they end up doing that. But after doing all that questing, they end up traveling even more. And the first village they run into is this village that's basically overrun by like a demonic plant, which you actually kind of see the precursor to when they're getting that magical crystal, because they find this treasure chest that's like, this seed should not be used and should be locked away forever, blah blah blah, and of course it's gone.
And you also hear about the fact that you get the little backstories on what the heroes have been doing, where you find out that the spear hero saved a village from like a famine, and the sword hero killed a dragon that was terrorizing a town, and the bow hero went off on his own and liberated some village, and it sounds like they're doing great things. But you find out later
that they're not,
because Naofumi visits, as we said, a village that's been overrun by this strange plant that sounds very familiar.
I wonder. And the plant was bearing like this wonderful fruit for the people to eat, but unfortunately it was also a monster and it was killing people. So they end up killing the monster, and now for me, being the awesome character he is, ends up like reverse engineering the plant so that it would only bear fruit and it wouldn't be monstrous. So he ends up actually saving them, and they end up continuing his praises of being like the something of the
heavenly fowl or whatever.
The heavenly fowl, like the bringer of the heavenly fowl or something. I can't remember. And then as he's going on, the next place he runs into is
the village that's overrun with like this
with the plague. They're basically running for plague, and he's trying to heal them with his potions, but he realizes that
it's all because the dragon that the sword hero killed, he left the corpse and the corpse started rotting.
Yeah, because that's one thing that the other heroes aren't getting. That it's like, yeah, we are in a game, but it's not just a game, and actions have consequences.
Yeah.
So he ends up defeating the dragon, but during that fight, he ends up unlocking, as I said before, the Rage Shield, which is basically this extremely strong shield that you can only unlock if you are truly enraged in the game. And it's a power that only he has, at least that I know at the moment. But unfortunately, it also hurts him as he does it.
And the only people that can pull him out of it is Raftalia, Philo, and any of his like close party members. Unfortunately, though, it curses them in the process.
Yeah. Well, it ends up cursing them. So after that fight, Raftalia needs holy water to end up removing the curse. So they end up going back to the capital to save her, but along the way they run into a girl with purple pigtails and looks quite fancy and a little similar to someone else that we saw.
Yeah, to a certain girl that we don't like.
Yeah. But it turns out she ends up being the princess. But the princess that's actually first in line to the throne and is younger than mine.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder why. I'm brain farting on her name because she's not Malty. She's
Melty.
Melty, that's it.
Because they have weird names in this family.
They have weird names. So he ends up running into Melty and he ends up escorting her back to the kingdom. And then as they're getting closer, and she also loves Philolios.
Yep, and her and Philo are best friends.
And her and Philo are best friends, and it's adorable. And as they go back to the kingdom, he ends up escorting her back, but he ends up
getting framed as a kidnapper.
Well, that's later.
Is it?
So
okay.
That's a little later because before that he ends up actually going back and saying, and then he leaves her behind because he's like, "You're the queen, you're the king's daughter, f you."
Pretty much.
Which is rightfully so though because he's had such a hard time.
Yeah, literally the only people he trusts in the world are Raftalia and Philo. And maybe the blacksmith.
And maybe the seller.
Yeah.
The slave trader guy. So they're going along and they end up actually going to eat dinner, and then of course as they're eating they overhear the sword and the bow hero, and they're kind of complaining about how someone's been stealing their rewards. But in fact, the only reason their rewards were not stolen is because they did a shit job and the shield hero had to go and fix their mistakes. And it's kind of one of those scenes where you're very, very satisfied because they're basically getting put in this place.
Yeah, he tells them off, and the bow hero, or is it the bow hero?
Oh, which one? Dark-haired one or the...
No, is he called the bow hero?
Yeah.
Yeah, the bow hero is kind of a bitch about it. The sword hero, though, he's kind of like...
He's actually kind of thinking about it. He's like, oh shit, I'm really not thinking of... I'm thinking of this as a game, but in reality there's consequences.
You start seeing a little bit of development there.
Yeah, which is kind of nice. I mean, the sword hero is the one you like the most, but even then, he's still not the greatest.
No, he gets better, though. He's also the one that's like a parody of the main character from Sword Art Online. So.
Yeah. And then after that, there's another wave. They fight in another wave.
Yeah, and the heroes are all incompetent as fuck.
Yep. They're all not working together because in reality, the heroes need to work together to fight off the waves, and they're not working together. They're working against each other, so they can't realistically do it.
Yeah. And the only person who can actually figure out what's going on is Naofumi.
Yeah.
But they don't want to work with him because they still are believing all this crap that's been going around.
Yeah. So that ends up happening. They end up fighting. And basically, without Naofumi, they would have died.
Yeah.
And a villain from another world comes. Her name's Glass.
Or do you want to say the hero from another story?
Oh, it could be that. It could be that. It is that.
Yeah.
And Naofumi's the only one who can even, fight her. But even then, he's not strong enough at this point.
Yep.
So they end up going back, and one thing that Naofumi wants to do is level up. Not level up. What is it?
Class upgrade, because they've reached their level cap.
They've reached their level cap, so he wants to do class upgrades.
But unfortunately, they can't because guess
he's
who
the shield hero.
And guess who showed us up?
Yep.
Who
the
else?
Bitch.
Yeah. And basically won't let them upgrade, so they have to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So as they're going on their quest to get to a different area, they get ambushed. And basically framed for kidnapping the princess.
Yep, and it's all the videos
Very
changed and
obviously
stuff.
altered.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, you see it happen, and then you see the video footage where it edits in Raftalia has this evil face, and they add blood.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? So now they're basically running from the law with Melty in tow, and basically they're just trying to they're trying to get across the land, but they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And
then we eventually encounter
the Philolio Queen.
We encounter the Philolio Queen. We have that whole character building arc for Philo, and then we get Raftalia's character building arc where we find the village that she lived in as a kid, and we get her backstory. And we end up going to the village where she was kept as a slave.
Yeah.
And she gets her sweet, sweet revenge.
Yep, she gets her sweet revenge. He gets stomped on by the monster that he released. And then she's able to save one of her friends, but unfortunately another one of her friends didn't make it.
The one that was her closest friend, but she did save a whole bunch of her people.
Yeah, she saved a whole bunch, and it was a big character building moments for those two characters, but eventually they have to come back. One thing that the Philolio Queen, Vittoria, the current Philolio Queen, who used to be a hero, the Shield Heroes partner from many, many years back. She's thousands of years old. And she basically tells them, you need to work together with the other heroes or I will kill you.
Yeah.
And that's basically what she says. But then she also pressures him to stop using the Rage Shield because it will hurt him. And it actually does show that it hurts him because he has to end up using it again. So he ends up going and traveling to try and talk to one of the heroes and set things straight, kind of following Vittoria's will. And of course, what hero does he run into? The Spear Hero, because
he only ever shows up. And he is the most brain dead of all of them.
Well, he's just so wrapped around Mind's finger that, also his party members are all women, and they all suck.
And they all mysteriously start disappearing as it goes on. Because I wonder why.
Yeah.
Because it's like they got thrown out.
Yeah, and it's fun. So they end up fighting, and then eventually, though, they end up getting attacked by the church.
Well, at first it's a giant fuck you beam from the sky.
Yeah, a giant fuck you beam. Holy fuck you beam. And of course now for me protects them all because he's the shield hero.
Yeah.
And basically the church has come to basically kill all the heroes because they just hate them.
Well,
and
they hate the shield hero and the other ones are so incompetent that they just want them removed.
Yeah, they just want to get rid of them too. And the thing is in order to get a new bout of heroes, all the heroes have to die.
Yeah.
In order for new heroes to come. So basically they're well, we want to get rid of the shield hero and you guys kind of suck too. Which they all get their extra slaps in the face, again, of all the things that they've done wrong.
Yeah.
Which is pretty hilarious.
And then my favorite part is as they're all trying to be okay, we'll fight back. It's what do we do? What do we do? And then it cuts over to Naofumi, Raftalia, Philo, and Melty are all sitting in a circle planning their strategy. And they're wait, you're not going to help us? They're no, we're good.
Yeah, we're fine.
We'll figure this out on our own.
But eventually they do end up working together. And one thing that happens too is that the bow and the sword hero, who were thought to be dead, were actually alive. And they end up helping in the fight too.
Mm-hmm.
And also the queen, who has kind of been this mysterious character, is on the way to help destroy the church, but also to help Naofumi.
The shield hero, because she's she's the one person who's okay, this is fucked.
Because, kind of the reason she's been away is because of the waves, and she was talking to the other kingdoms,
she was basically doing damage control.
Well, originally it wasn't damage control. Originally it was they were meeting to discuss summoning the heroes.
Well, yes.
But, of course, her idiot husband summoned all the heroes, so now she was doing damage control, which was keeping her away.
What I do like about the queen, though, is she's a badass and actually fights on the front line.
Yeah, she fights on the front line, and she actually helps them out a lot, too, in ending the battle. And eventually, the battle ends with
Naofumi doing one of the most dramatic fuck you attacks ever.
It was called, blood sacrifice.
Yeah, and he just fucking bleeds out.
He bleeds out, but then a giant fucking fuck you dragon comes out of the ground and, ate the Pope.
Destroyed the Pope.
Destroyed the Pope. It's just a pretty sick scene. But because he used the rage shield, it hurt him, and he actually, was, asleep for a couple days.
He was basically near death.
He was near death, basically. And that's basically implied that the rage shield could kill him. at any point. But after that, he's brought to the capital, and things are starting to change. He's been treated a lot better, and he ends up meeting with the queen, and you don't hear what they're talking about because there's a perfectly placed wind blowing scene
Yes.
where it covers everything they say, but it truly, you can tell it's deeply affecting him what she said. And as you go on, he ends up running into the other heroes who are like, oh, like, thanks for your help earlier, Queen's having us meet in this courtroom for some reason, we gotta get down there, not knowing what's happening.
Yeah.
So they go to the throne room, and the heroes are there, and soon Malty and the king are brought out to the throne room, and they're basically on trial for all the crimes that they committed while the queen was away.
Yep, and they're both given slave crests.
Well, just Malty is.
I thought the king had one too.
No, he didn't have one because he wasn't lying, remember?
Oh, right, yeah.
Malty is a pathological liar, so she had a slave crest, and basically, it all comes out that, like, the king was not being fair to him because he had a grudge against a past shield hero or something, or the shield heroes did something to him, not now for me, but something to him in the past. And Malty just went along with it, and they also conspired with the church, even though the church was just using them to basically kill them eventually and get rid of them. And basically they end up going on trial, and they put a slave crest on Malty, and basically she can't lie, and every time she lies she gets a static, like that electric shock collar. So the queen asks her, is like, were you assaulted by the shield hero? And she's like, yes I was, and then just goes
Gets blasted into the ground.
Screaming.
She gets blasted into the ground so many times, and then
the other heroes are like
dipshit spear heroes like, no, it's not true, and they have him put a slave crest on her too, so he can see, and she immediately gets blasted for it.
And it is so freaking satisfying to see this happen. But eventually, the trial ends with
where they're both being put to death.
Yeah, which, like, honestly, like, when you think, it seems dramatic, but then when you think about all the crimes that they did and how they almost destroyed a kingdom and caused, like, horrible relations with the other kingdoms as well. Like, without the queen, like, because they could have gone to war with all the other kingdoms at the same time as well for everything they did. It's kind of deserved. But what ends up happening is as they're being almost beheaded by, like, those, what are they called?
The guillotines.
The guillotines, Naofumi steps in.
And decides, you know what? I think they deserve a second chance. But hear me out. From now on, he basically decides that the king is forever going to be now known as Trash.
And Malty is known as Bitch, with her hero name, Whore.
And the queen just goes with it. She's like, okay.
Well, and the queen is happy, though, because basically what was going to happen is if Naofumi didn't step in, she was going to give up her own life in return for theirs. Which is the only reason I think Naofumi truly stepped in. I think also, too, it was because, like, Malty was basically begging him for help, and she wasn't lying, because, like, she was legitimately begging him for help. The man that she tried to ruin. Like, that's how far she fell, and he was like, you know what? I'm not gonna let this kingdom, I hate this kingdom, but I'm not gonna, the queen's been good to me, so I'm gonna do the right thing. And after that, basically, he's being treated really well, they get to do their class upgrades, but they still decide that they're not going to stay in that kingdom.
No, because they have other things to do.
Yeah. And as it goes on, one of the things that he ends up asking the queen, he doesn't really ask for anything much, he asks to have Raftalia's town be run by him. And, which is a really nice scene, because he basically, like, is like, look, we're gonna build your home back up. Because one of the hard things is, like, eventually he'll either die or he'll return to his own world once the waves end. Mm-hmm. So he is basically kind of setting up Raftalia, Philo, and all his party members to have successful lives.
Even though they're not exactly happy about him.
No, they aren't, but it's realistic. And then the only other major plot line, too, is they end up going to this island that has extra XP, because video games, my dude. And
the queen referring to Malty as, bitch.
Oh yeah, that scene is really great where they're just like, Malty, and then the little sister is like, mine, whore. And that one's a really good one. And then they end up going to that island, and then they soon find out there's a dragon hourglass. And basically what's happening is the waves are going to hit on that island. So they're able to evacuate everyone to safety. And basically, if the shield hero didn't find that hourglass, they probably just would have been fucked.
Yeah.
Like, they would have just died. So they end up fighting the waves. And while they were on that island, they met these 2 other party members who kind of temporarily joined their party while they were leveling up there. And they're really strong. But then it turned out that they were actually heroes from another world.
Friends of Glass.
Yeah, Friends of Glass, or they were members of Glass's party.
It's not really clear yet.
It's not clear yet, but I believe it will be clarified in the future seasons.
Yeah, just spoiler. We've only seen season 1.
We've only seen season 1. And basically, that's where you kind of learn that, like, there's other heroes in the world. And that, like, these waves are other heroes also trying to defend their world. So it's kind of like this weird point, and it's kind of one thing Victoria predicts is that at one point the heroes are going to have to make decisions that are going to be difficult. Like, do I choose this or do I choose that? And it's kind of putting ideas into Naofumi's head. He's like, do I really want to save this world? Like, is it worth it saving? So, and it kind of ends with that. Well, it ends with the scene where they go to Raftalia's town and he tells her. And one other girl joins their party.
Oh yeah, because Bow Hero threw her out because he's kind of a dick too.
Yeah,
he's honestly about as much of a dick as the Spear Hero. The only reason the Spear Hero's more hated is because he's so fucking stupid.
And he has so much more screen time too.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure the Bow Hero. I don't think the Sword Hero would be as hated, but the Bow Hero sucks too.
Yeah.
But basically, that's kind of where the season ends, and it was really interesting because I could just tell Bill was getting infuriated at the
because the characters are so fucking irritating.
Yeah.
It's like, you're just like, come on.
Yeah. But it's a good...
But as a turnaround, it does make you really like Naofumi, Raftalia, and Philo.
Yeah, you really love the main characters of the show. And that's one thing that I really liked about it, is that I really did love watching it, and I loved watching... Like, I was rooting for Naofumi the whole time. Like, it really made you like the character, feel for the character. And the other heroes are kind of the punching bags to build them up, but it's like, okay, it's worth it.
Oh, anytime they got brought down was so satisfying.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like, fuck these guys so
and
much.
In the courtroom scene.
That's great. The
scene.
trial's great. Anytime they get wrecked was great.
Yeah.
Like, there's a scene where, like, a bitch is trying to, because she's bitch by this point, she's trying to poison Naofumi's food and gets caught.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Raftalia starts a freaking bar fight, which is great.
Because she's drank. Raftalia drunk is really funny, too. Because that's one thing, when they were on that island, they, like, end up going to a bar and the other healers... I broke her toy. Shit! I just threw it at Bill. Yeah, and, they end up drinking, but now Fumi's like, nah. But he ends up eating these berries that apparently are super
alcoholic.
And he's just like, pretty sweet to me. And he likes
It doesn't
them.
affect him at all.
Oh, and that was one plot point, too, that we didn't talk about. So, when Naofumi first came there, and, like, the first night he was there before he was, like, ousted, like, he ate food and he was like, oh, this is delicious. But after he was ousted, he, like, couldn't taste any food. And that was basically until, like, he saw Raftalia. It was after the scene where he saw Raftalia.
Yeah, and his mental block went away.
And, like, she made him a sandwich, and he was like, I can finally taste again. And that scene was really, like, it was a really good scene. There definitely was some heartwarming moments of the show.
Also, like, how he treats her like an equal.
Yeah.
Which is great.
He treats his party so well.
Well, they have a fun dynamic because they're basically equals at this point. He treats Philo more like a daughter.
Yeah.
But he treats Raftalia like his equal.
Yeah.
Because she's his sword and he's the shield, basically.
Yeah. So, it's a cool show. And, like, I think how they make the shield be used in the ways that they, like, kind of work around that, like, he can't use weapons is interesting.
I like I like how it's based off a game, but it doesn't have that gamey feel to it.
Yeah, like, it has game elements, but it's not, like, game.
Like, I'll say we're watching another series for a future iteration of this series, and it's a very much more apparent that one is a game than this show is.
Which is funny though, because like at points in this show, like it has like the menu screens and stuff, and the other show we're watching doesn't really have that.
Yeah, but it's like other than that, that's like the only reason why I'd even realized this is a game. Like thing, because they make all these references.
But I really liked it. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. You get hooked. Like, it's one of those ones that hooks you the second you start watching it.
Yeah.
The animation's great. The story's fun.
Yeah, it is a lot newer animation especially compared to Azumanga Daioh, where it only came out not that long ago.
Yeah, it's relatively new, especially considering the second season just finished.
Yeah, so it's a much newer show, but honestly, I think both can be appreciated. Like, both I'd watch again. Watch again.
I will say though, Rising of the Shield is definitely a more easy show to watch. You got to be in the right mindset to watch an Azumanga Daioh. Because that show is it's for when you just want to watch something stupid and turn your brain off for a bit.
Yeah. This show you got to pay attention.
Yeah, this show's a bit more...
Because there's so much information being thrown at you in plot. Like, you got to pay attention.
Yeah, there's a lot of blink it or miss it moments in the show that you really don't notice
even
right
then,
away.
Every time I've watched it, I've noticed things that I've missed. Like, noticed little plot things. Because even when we were watching it, this is like the third time I've watched it. And I noticed things I didn't notice the first couple times. So, it's definitely one of those shows you can rewatch again and find some new things about it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend both. Shield Hero is definitely probably the easier one to get into, I'll say. I mean, it's on the Funny app, so there's that.
Yes.
It's probably going to eventually be on Crunchyroll whenever they just finally...
Funny Roll?
Funny Crunch.
Funny Crunch. What did I call it yesterday?
Crunchy Fun. Crunchy Fun.
No, it was like Funny Crunchy Mation Roll. Or is it...
That's just too
Crunchy
much.
Fun Munchy...
You're trying too hard now.
No, I like it at all!
I still like Crunchy Fun, personally. But...
Maybe they'll call it something stupid like CRF. Crunchyroll Funimation. Or FCR.
Funny Crunch.
Roll.
No. But, alright. So, but anyways...
Actually, where is that? Because I want her to eat that.
Alright. But anyways, guys, once again, thanks for joining us on the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. The Gaming and Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify Podcast. We are made on Anchor Podcast, and you can follow us on all social media platforms, on Twitter, Instagram, Good Pods. The episodes are going to eventually come out on YouTube. That's a bit on hold at the moment just because of life. But anyways, guys, once again, we will see you all next time.